early. Happy Tuesday, everybody. You know, I've got my popcorn ready. Do you have your popcorn ready, Rodney?
It's already eaten.
But I mean, for the show tonight.
For the show tonight, yes. I'll have some popcorn. I'll have some more ready for tonight's show. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you meant for our show. See, I think I'm a one-track mind guy. I'm thinking that dollars and cents will probably be better than tonight's show.
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. My name is Andy Elliott, realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. I am with my best buddy, Rodney Wilds. He's with First Bank, also Williamson County. If you have questions, concerns, anything you'd like to learn about that we're talking about here, or just questions in general, spit that out. Our contact information is easy to find. So, did you have a good weekend? Did you do anything special?
We played some golf in fantastic weather with some friends and had a great weekend.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Enjoyed the weather.
Yeah, me, I just watched a little WNBA. I am like so into I am into it, man. I considered the other day I sat bolt right up and I was like, I could get tickets and just drive my butt on up to Indianapolis for a game. I could do that.
So you're the one. That's awesome.
the one person.
The one WNBA fan.
Oh man, it's gone crazy. It's so good. So good. I'll tell you what's crazy. Perfect segue. Thank you. These rates have, what? These things, okay, this is the way we're going to do some oldies but a goodie. Here's how I see the rates, what they're doing. I know I took that picture myself. I don't think anybody could hear me while that other stuff was playing, but anyway, you get the point. Rates have stalled. We're coming in for a smooth landing. We're used to a roller coaster, and everybody wants that smooth gliding thing over Natchez Trace Bridge. I think my audio was muted. That's a system-wide thing. There's our glitch. Thank you. We're all done with that.
There's our glitch for the day. We got it.
Okay, here we go. Hang on. Here we come, Rodney, with the pip. Bink. There it is.
There we are. Green is good. And I put out here for the last, so we could see this view. It's for a year-long view, or actually 6 month here, from the 2024 through September right here. As you can see, the last several months, we have made some ground on the rates. This is June 11th, June 4th right here. And you scroll up through September 10th, the last several days, all green. It means the rates have been improving every day on that. So why is that? Is it part, as you can see, there's 17 basis points.
Yeah.
It's, is it part that the, Fed is starting to cycle around and lower some rates. These are not the same rates as Fed lowers, but it directly affects us. As you can see, we got a nice level of support here. Our moving average, I believe that's the 25-day moving average. We're still got a nice level of support. So the current belief is rates are going to continue to trend and get better, which is a great trend. So we hope it continues.
Are you seeing an uptick? I'm not asking about your personal business, but I mean in general, are lenders seeing an uptick? I mean, Are refis starting to build up a little bit? Are people talking about that more? Are you seeing buyers chatter start to get a little more intense? What are you seeing behind the scenes, if I can pry?
From our perspective, I think we're seeing a little bit of an uptick right now, and it's also seasonal too, right? So we're in a seasonal piece where it's going to be a little bit the last kind of buyers are going to try and be buy right now before the holidays and stuff set
Yep.
in, right?
Yep.
So we've got a seasonal uptick along with the nice break in rates. So I think it's just a nice combination of both.
Well, and I think here's I love it. I love this conversation with you. I really appreciate your expertise on this. I think what thrills me is just to have, and we've got a line item for this later in the show if we get to it, talking about the Fed rate cuts and what it means and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't think it's any secret. We talk about it all the time that the mindset of the consumer drives the economy. That's just the way it is. If people are pensive and fearful, things come to a screeching halt. If people are happy and reasonably comfortable, the money flows because people feel safe. I think it's basically what it is. With the idea that there's going to be a cut this coming month, assuming there's no really weird things happen. And they're even having discussions big time on, is it going to be a quarter point or a half point? And at this point, a half point sounds huge, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I know that sounds counterintuitive maybe, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But I think that people just start to loosen up and start to think, hey, we're starting to smooth out, like the videos I was playing just a second ago. And I think that that's where a lot of the happiness comes from. Could I be wrong on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's our affordability. Each tick in these rates, our affordability is getting better, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the first time it's been going in this direction in a minute. Right? It's the first time that your payment can get lower in a decent amount. Right? I mean, it's been going the opposite direction for a long time. So I think we're seeing finally some different direction, and that's created some opportunity for customers who may need to refinance, have higher debt on other things, or home equity lines of credit that they could get rid of, and things like that.
Well, it's just like you said, it's giving people a chance to breathe a little bit, kind of relax. And I'm convinced that not only are things, they have to be stable, but they have to have a longer, a relatively longer duration for people to be comfortable with it. Again, it's all about feeling safe. We're just humans, and we're kind of prepared to be that defensive so we can take care of ourselves and our loved ones. But as things look safe, we start to come out of our shell a little bit. That's just now. There's investors that are more aggressive that wouldn't agree with that at all, and I'm fine. But I'm talking about the general population. If you scare 330 million people, they're going to stop going to the store. I mean, that's kind of what it's going to be. And I'm
Yeah,
seeing. Go ahead.
yeah, I think your point's heightened right now just due to the affordability of it, right? It like if when rates are 2% and payments, the affordability piece wasn't the issue when people were moving around and refinancing and doing all that.
Yeah.
That wasn't the issue. So stable isn't it has to be stable for somebody now to be making big decisions because they're right on the edge of this affordability crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we're seeing jobs come and go. I mean, the jobs reports are. Um, you have to pay attention to that. I mean, because across the country, if people feel safe in their jobs, because, job cuts affect people's lives. And it's tough to buy a house when you're getting fired, and I've over the years, I had that happen to a guy one time, and it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It was just the economy had shifted, and
Right.
he was one of those ones to go. Well, here's the number that I'm looking at, and I know I say this every week. I'm sorry, but I'm going to repeat this again. The numbers that I look at on a daily basis come from an app or a website called Mortgage News Daily. That's just who I use because it's easy to read, it's clean, that kind of stuff. The number I see is different than what Rodney generally can offer to his clientele. I believe that you've said that numerous times, but I'm seeing 622. It wasn't how long ago that it was 671?
Yeah.
4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. What was it?
Yeah, as when you've seen in a chart, it's just so much. I mean, it's a little bit of a ladder, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the improvement's been significant. It's
It
nice.
it is significant, and if that doesn't get after people see this for a minute and start to believe that it's going to stick, I have to believe that people are going to start coming out of the woodwork in those layers, because we talk about this a lot. I believe that in the consumer world, there's layers, and Rodney knows this better than me, but there's different numbers that are benchmarks for certain people. 6.2 is what it is for one group, and 6.1 is another group, and and on and on and on you go. That's just such a positive sign. I read something the other day, would have been either this morning or yesterday, that according to Realtor.com, and we're not shy about saying, hey, Realtor.com is a pretty positive, optimistic thing, because that's their world. That real estate is their world, and they're optimistic, and I'm glad for that. Completely, it's legitimate. It's okay. But they said the best time, I almost pulled the article in, and I thought, don't be stupid. The best time to buy is the last week of this month. Did by any chance at all, did you read that article?
I didn't see that quote. I read the articles that we had, but I didn't see that the best time to buy. No, I haven't seen that.
And
The week this month, the end of the month.
That's what they're
September.
saying. And it must be like a data driven thing, because I mean, why? And I was like, if I'm scoffing at it already, I'm probably not. It wouldn't be a smart move to pull it into our show so I can make fun of it. And then and here's what the next thing that we all, hey, there's Angie. I see that. I need to look over that a little more often. We're going to pull up a comment here real quick, Rodney. Just hope the political situation doesn't screw me over. Wait until, man, oh man. We were talking about popcorn at the beginning of the show. Rodney assumed rightly that popcorn for this program. I was talking about popcorn about, the thing tonight. Don't want to get political, but I hope that the political situation doesn't cause problems too. I don't think that housing is going to be the first thing either one of them is going to jump on, because that's a big one to tackle. That I don't know how do you. I'm going to just ask you, what do you think about that, Rodney?
I think they could do. I think the government could do a lot more. I mean,
I don't doubt that, but do you think that would be on their list of things to do right away? Well, that would be a little quick, I think. I wonder.
I don't know. I think I'm not so sure it wouldn't be, just because it's been several years of Democrat. Like, let's say if it changes parties and Republicans are president, I think you might see some loosening of regulations that's been poured on over the last, starting with the Dodd-Frank, right, and passed, and the housing initiatives to get banks to loosen up some regulations to free up housing. So I'm not so sure, because I think that we are. We can call it a soft landing or a recession, whatever we want, but I think we're going to be technically in a recession if we're not. And the I think maybe housing might be a way for the new candidate to help pull the country out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And no, and you didn't say anything. You did not say anything wrong. What you brought up is the point is in the midst of all the and in the midst of all the stuff that's going on, meaning with the NAR settlement and the commission lawsuits and the rates jumping and getting cut, and I mean, like, geez, I know. Let's throw a political time. I don't want to say that. Let's throw a political conflict in the middle of all this. I mean,
Right,
let's add
right.
some more variables to it. You said it exactly right, because who on earth knows how things are going to go? I mean, there's levers to be pulled with real estate, with anything. You have the government has power, and they could pull levers to make people go, wow, that was really nice, maybe convince them, some voters to slide their way. I don't know. Don't crucify me for that. But there can. I heard something about changing to capital gains as well. Rodney?
I haven't heard the proposals. Actually, when the more of this I hear about the debate tonight, I'm thinking about rewatching the 49ers Jets blowout because I'm a 49ers fan. So I may rewatch my 49ers game instead of all that mess and just act like I hadn't seen it before.
You would have had more impact if you said you're going to rewatch the Titans game.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Hang on.
Yeah.
That was
yeah. See, I've lived here so long. I'm not a Titans fan. It's like everybody else, become a Titans fan when they came here, and I was like, well, Titans wasn't always here. I already had an NFL team.
Yeah, they were the Oilers. They imported them. How'd the Titans play? What do you expect? You're right. Well, let's touch. There's so much. Thank you for that comment, Ange. That's a whole can of worms. That, I can't wait to talk about that next week, just to see what the implications of whatever policies come to light tonight. We'll see how that goes. But the first thing I wanted to chat about, and then we're going to dive into the NAR, and I'm going to tell you stories. I got a couple of good stories that happened to me the last couple of days, and we'll have fun with this. We'll see if we can't push through this. So the first one, I go shopping. I do the shopping for my household because I'm a single person. So I do that. A lot of people have them delivered. I just don't, I don't want to do that. But one of the things that people talk about, and you hear about it on the news, I'm going to scroll this. You hear about it on the news, how groceries have gotten more expensive. And, it really is, it is true. Groceries are more expensive. And one of the things that they talk about is shrinkflation. And it was noticed most of the time you'll see it in cereal. Like if you go to get a box of Wheaties or Cheerios and you think $7, what? I remember when I used to get Frosted Flakes, it was like $2.70 for a box as big as an Amazon delivery box. Well, shrinkflation is happening in real estate too. And we've been talking about that for like a year. Let me read a couple of lines. Shrinkflation is hitting American home buyers hard, especially in the South. Wah, wah. A recent study found people are now paying more for smaller properties. An analyst concluded by USA Today, Homefront, using data from Realtor.com, found that the median American home is now 128 square feet smaller than 5 years ago. And you think, what's that? A 10 by 10 room? Yeah, right. Could be a bedroom and really small one. But the cost has gone up for that smaller house, $125,000. Shrinkflation, by definition, is what happens when companies reduce a product's amount or volume per unit without changing the retail price. That's the shrinkflation. We talk about cereal and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to plug Aldi though. If you're worried about grocery prices, try Aldi. I swear by it. I swear by Aldi's. And this is not being They're not paid for. This is not sponsored. The concept evokes imagery of candy bars sneakily getting smaller over the years, of bags of chips and cereal boxes getting emptier. Have you ever noticed that too? It's a big old box and it's like 1/3 full. Phenomenon known to outrage consumers. Any initial thoughts on that, Rodney?
Yeah, I just think about I opened up a bag of chips the other day, and it was as soon as I opened them up, it was like it was a third of a bag of chips. I'm like, what? Yeah, but you're right. We've been regarding houses. We've been talking about this for maybe longer than a year. That it was what else are builders going to do? You're running out of land. The cost of materials are skyrocketing, so you can continue to try to build the same size house, and that price is even more on top of the 40% it already just appreciated over
Mhm.
a 2-year span or whatever that was. So they builders had to shrinkflate these houses in order just to keep it going at the high pace it was. If they hadn't have done that, it would have been a lot worse. So I was when it started happening, I liked it. I'm still with it, thinking it would have been a lot worse if they hadn't done that to try to control prices.
Well, and you remember it was I believe it was in the 2000s when America, will be specific with America area in the United States, from the 90s and on. That's when houses, remember the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. When I go show those houses now, and I mean, you can go to, Nashville proper, you can go to some of these like Donaldson, Hermitage, 37013, Laverne. You can go out to Murfreesboro, all these places where there's 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s houses, and they're 1,100 square feet, 1,200, maybe.
Right.
I mean, that's what they are. And most of them back then, they had a central bathroom, and they would have a center for everybody to use, in the house. And there was no powder room. And when they developed master bath for the master bedrooms back in those, they were just a half bath. I mean, I don't even think a half. They might have had a sink and a toilet in there, and that was it. Back in the day, that was your master suite, baby,
Yes. So
and then
yeah, so I mean, your shrinkflation may have been coming down from partly from the mega mansions as well. I mean,
right.
because we went from that everybody was building 5,000-6,000 square foot, and then you start going backwards. But yeah, I would have called it shrinkflation at the time, because we kind of started already experiencing going away from the mega mansion, and people were building moderate sizes, and mega mansions are still everywhere. They're not slowing down very much, but I
There,
think the shrinkflation was a good, and it was at the same coming on the heels of we're already trying to, I guess the market was saying, hey, we would like some regular sizes house too.
yeah.
So
And the builders are smart. That's why, I mean, there's a lot of, you can get into it. Realtors and builders, you can kind of have a love-hate relationship with those guys. I mean, because sometimes they're sailing the boat and sometimes they're filling with water. I mean, it just depends on the market, and you can tell specifically as a realtor by how many promotions you get in your email every day. Hey, we're giving $25,000 worth of extra swimming pool. I mean, excuse me, that means it's a slow market when you're getting that kind of stuff from builders. But the one thing that they have is data. They're just like Redfin and all those guys, those big companies that I have a ton of respect for. They really wrangle data very well. And with these builders, there's some of them out there that are really responsive. Don't want to use any names because I don't have any favorites except one guy, Trey Lewis. He is my favorite, Old South. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, and in my opinion, he probably owns that thing by now. But he has one of the companies that responds really well. And I'll bet you that they're moderating their home prices, home sizes based on price, because they're price centric builders, And I'll bet you that they have a sense on, how much house they can build profitably for a $300,000, $400,000 buyer. Wouldn't you? Don't you consider those guys pretty responsive?
Well, yes, they've been tops in our state for decades. And he's always done the same thing. He's always worked with first time home buyers. Uh, a lot of builders will build their first house, and the next house will be double the price, and then double the price, and then double the price. But he has built thousands and
Oh,
thousands. I mean,
oh, man.
a year. I mean, he built. I think at one time maybe got close to 1,000 homes a year. I don't know if they're up to that number now or not, but they've just always been one of the top builders in the state, and they've always focused on their market, the first time home buyer market.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
the owner there, John Floyd, he's always done a great job with land. It seems like land positioning, and I don't know his business, but he's obviously done a great job because they've done it for decades.
The only thing I know about his business, because it's been a minute since I've worked with him, but every time I have down through the years, him and his company has always been excellent to work with. And, I cannot say that about all builders. And I'm not trying to give any shots. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying if you're looking for a new house and you're in that price range, look up Trey Lewis at Old South, because they're good. They really are. And Angie has a comment here, and it kind of blends right into what we're talking about. Starter homes are actually more popular here now and sell faster. Well, that makes total sense to me, because the lion's share of buyers in California, even first time, I wonder what first time home buyers, we should get Kobe Cost on here one day. I wonder what first time home buyers, what a starter home out in California cost.
Well, it's I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have like you have areas like if I'm a Beverly Hills kid, my starter home may be 16 million.
Yeah.
But if
Well,
I'm
there's
Rodney
that.
Wild kid in Modesto, California, somewhere out in the desert, it may be 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess location's your big target there.
I'll bet you that. But of course, it seems to make sense to me that they'd be more popular and they sell faster because people, and we've seen this as professionals, after a while, it becomes pretty obvious when a state starts to get touted as inexpensive, like Tennessee used to be. People started flooding here, and we're not even in the top 10 states for people to move here yet. Everybody thinks so, I mean, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, Utah, those are get a lot more people moving to them than Tennessee. But we had this reputation for being inexpensive, and all of a sudden the phone starts blowing up. People follow the money. I don't care what's the situation. If they can keep their job and keep their money flowing, they're going to follow the money, and that's where the lion's share of the market is. The meat of the market is going to be in that mid range, I would think.
Nationwide, they're the lion's share. First time home buyers 40%, I think, of the market.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
it's bigger than you think it is, and that's why with these rate changes and things. Oh, here we go. That's why with these rate changes for the Fed, that sort of thing, it's gonna have an impact because that's a big ship, meaning all those first time buyers, early buyers. That's a lot of people to have go into motion at once. I'm gonna try to do this. Let me see if we can't. Oh, look at that. What good software. Got good software here, Rodney. At least you still have a good amount of property compared to the new builds, so the right buyer, there should be advantages.
There
Also,
will be.
skills.
Shrinkflation is one. I guarantee it's in California as well. I mean, if they're building new houses, it's probably going to be smaller than yours, and you probably have you got more property.
Yep. Yep. One of the things about new builds, at least going on around here, one of the things that that gets traded out first, meaning compromised on, is the lot size. So when you have new builds going up, the lots have gotten smaller. Not in every development. I mean, some are planned to be larger, but that's usually one of the first things to go because that's a cost, that's a fixed cost, so to speak, that they can slice up a grid better. You can get 60 homes in an acre instead of 40, whatever it is. That may be way too many, maybe not. But that goes right to a builder's bottom line, and what people are. I went down to let's talk about density for a second. Have you been? I have not been to the Laverne area in a while. In Nashville, you've got Nashville proper. You've got, doing this on the screen, you've got Williamson County that is south and west, and then south and east, you're going to go down to Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, stuff like that. And those cities have been around a long time. And recently we were doing a transaction down in Lake Forest. And that is what used to be one of the largest subdivisions in the country. And I mean, that's saying something, one of the largest. And it is filled with properties that are kind of what we're describing, 60s, 70s, 80s of that moderated size. And then it goes to the 1990s and 2000s, they get big mansions. And now we're going the other way down to get smaller, for affordability. What I noticed though, was there was one street, the density was off the charts. It was like you'd see in London, those row houses or brownstones or whatever they call. You're driving down the street and there's just hundreds, it seemed like. It seemed really dense. Beautiful though, well done, but just dense living. That's all. That's. I have no point to that. No shrinkflation common element to that. I just got lost in this story. Sorry. Oops.
Well, we got some dense areas in Lake Forest.
Yes, that would be the takeaway from that.
I'll sum up the statement there.
Maybe I should try decaf. I think maybe there's a lesson in that.
Well, that what they did different property types. Was it? Did you go to like the townhome section versus the?
Yes, it was off Murfreesboro and near Schriebman, which I learned who was one of the main builders out there originally. I believe.
And he gave the land for the library, and that's why they named the library after him out there. Yes, he was the developer. He was the single developer of that subdivision. I think before maybe SunTrust ended up taking it back or whatever. But
well, you remember that commercial
below Mason-Dixon line, owned by an individual.
Say that again.
It was the largest subdivision below Mason-Dixon line, owned by an individual, basically.
No kidding. Well, when I saw that name, and I've seen it 100 times over the years, I think of the same thing every time. When I was growing up, there was a commercial, and it said, with a name like Smucker's, it's got to be good. With a name like that, I mean, I thought, he's got to be a good guy, because that's a street. What street do you live on, honey? Try to get your 3-year-old to spell that,
Yeah. I think the Vernon Library is named after that as well, because that was all property that he was developed in there. So
I heard that.
Look out!
All right, we're gonna. Okay, I thought that was really interesting about the nearest. I just think that's really cool. Anyway. We're going to finish up this particular article. So it said 7 of the 10 metros with the most significant size reductions are in the South. Did that already. They did, where was it? Where did I read that? 18 of 150. Where did I see that, Rodney?
It's about midway through the article.
There it is. 18 of 100. Yeah, 18 of 150 major metropolitan areas analyzed by researchers had seen an increase in home size over the past 5 years, meaning 132 was the small ones. And then Colorado Springs was the metro where homes have shrunk the most. That happens to be where I'm from. median city is now 22% smaller than it was in 2019. I mean, that's like yesterday. But 50% more expensive per square foot. I mean, geez Louise. 20. Anyway, so I'll go through a quick list of this. And I love Colorado Springs, but I've watched them between that and Denver. As a market, it's gotten really hot in Colorado Springs. I live there, and I'm like, I don't really understand why, except in terms of the weather and the environment. It's gonna be tough to find a more beautiful place than that. The Front Range is make you weep. I mean, it's a beautiful place out there. So Colorado Springs was number one the most. Charlotte, Newark, that makes sense. Honolulu, I'd like to live there for a minute. North Carolina, Houston, Texas, Washington, San Antonio, Raleigh, and Winston-Salem. So they're all shrinking. That's just amazing. I'm surprised that Nashville wasn't on that list a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes with the numbers. Like some of those cities in North Carolina could have had a higher percentage, but fewer homes.
Yeah.
That contribute to it. But
I see number 8 there. New Braunfels. When I was in college, we went down there, and it was Oktoberfest. If you know what that is, it's beer. It's what that is. It's Oktoberfest. And apparently, I was so annoying, my guys left me there. They drove back. Yeah. They drove back to San Antonio without me. a little TMI.
Yeah.
How come you left me? Because you're annoying. That's why. Okay. So you're getting less house for your money. Let's talk about. I can't wait. Here we go for the next topic. Then we're going to dip into Oktoberfest. Yes, Angie knew. She knew.
Yeah, I mean.
And there's more to that story that I don't just use your imagination. College kid, a lot of drinking. Fill in the blanks. Just go right ahead. I'm going to check one thing before we move on. She's important to me. The new homes they're building here now start at almost $1 million, and you can literally look into your neighbor's window. Amen to that. I mean, we keep getting confirmation. Rodney was talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Starter homes around here. What would you?
It's like depending on the area. The highest starter home I've ever done is, I think, $900,000.
And that definition is somebody that's never bought a home before. Yeah. Have you ever bought a home? No. I'm going to get this. And we used to be able to call you $900,000 10 years ago. This is a freaking mansion. I mean, you're living big.
Yeah, it's in a good area. Wasn't that big. I mean, it's just in a good area,
Yeah, just in a good area. All right, here we go. We're going to dip in, and I got a few things to share about this. The new NAR rules are a bargaining chip, and I've got 3 titles on this, Rodney. That's why I put those 3 links in there. The new NAR rules are a bargaining chip, putting pressure on commissions in competitive markets. Couldn't write a worse title than that. I mean, it's a terrible title, but it's a blog, so they're not trying to sell it. Agents say most sellers are willing to cover some fees. There's 2 words in that sentence. Most sellers are willing to cover some fees. If we move on to it, you guys can't see what's going on. New NAR rules trigger increased negotiations in some markets. Before I get started, you got anything to jump in on, Rodney?
No, I want to hear it.
Negotiation over commission has become more common in some markets at higher price points in the wake of the industry rule change mandated by the National Association of Realtor Legal Settlement. Let me just set this up real quick. In the old days, before August 17th, commissions have always been negotiable. They've always been negotiable. There's nothing new there. There's two rule changes that compensation, that word compensation, has been removed from the MLS. It is no longer available in any form or fashion associated with the MLS, period. Second, you have to, for a buyer, they have to sign a buyer representation agreement or equivalent, meaning it can be a touring agreement, which in order for them to go in to see a house. No more freebies with no signature. There's got to be paper attached for somebody to tour a home. Either touring, which is no obligation, you're not an agent, you're just touring, or a buyer's representation agreement where you have discussed thoroughly the fees the agent would be paid that you're liable for. That's it. It sounds like a lot, but just for two things, that's what it is. When you took a listing agreement back in the day, the seller and the listing agent would negotiate compensation for that listing that was to be shared with the buyer agent coming in. That argument or that negotiation had already taken place when the house hit the market. That is not the case anymore. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Here's the deal. When an agent brings a buyer, the buyer nor the agent knows what the seller is going to offer in terms of compensation. And it's just created this whirlwind of question marks. And it's amazing how many different ways you can ask that question. I mean, literally 1,000 ways to ask that question. Negotiation over commissions has become more common in some markets. I just read that. While consumers and agents are still adjusting to the new rules, different impacts in different parts of the country. In some areas, negotiations over fees are becoming more common while other markets have not experienced much change at all. And Rodney has said that, and I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire, that what you were predicting is most of the time, sellers are going to just kind of keep doing what they've been doing. And in some markets, that's absolutely true. And in this market, I've been surprised a couple of times already. It was like, they're more willing than I was expecting. I had this thing figured out thinking that sellers are going to be, forgive this term, they're going to become greedy and they're going to try to keep it all themselves. I'll sell the house, but I'm not giving you anything. That's probably more filter me that I got to work on. But that isn't always the case. Or that's rarely the case, actually. So here's what, I'm going to read some of this. I know I kind of got off. I'm trying to set this up, and I'm doing a terrible job. We found a tale of two markets. This is the chief economist for Redfin, Daryl Fairweather. People listen to her. She's smart. And yes, it's a woman. In slow markets, where there's been less demand for home buyers, like Austin, right? They've kind of collapsed recently. Agents report that most sellers are still willing to pay for buyer agent commission to attract buyers, and agent fees are mostly the same as before. Well, here's what she said. In a market where sellers need the buyers, they're happy to pay the commission to complete the deal. If this had been in effect, and I didn't even think about this, during the pandemic, the 20 and 21, what do you think would have happened, Rodney?
Yeah, it'd have been, commissions would have been reduced. Commissions would have been significantly reduced.
From the seller. I mean,
Yes.
the agents, and I know we're talking about supposition here, but that didn't even occur to me. That the point of this article, and I'll go on a little bit. In markets with low inventory and robust demand like San Francisco and Boston, agents report more instances of negotiation around fees, with sellers asking buyers to make their best offer rather than preemptively deciding what they want to offer a buyer's agent. Now, I've been hearing discussions on this a lot because what happens these days, and this is a pretty small sampling. I mean, Nashville's a pretty big town, but my circle of influence, it's Williamson County, and Davidson County, pretty small sampling compared to the country. But what's happening is a lot of agents that I'm reading that are in a lot of the real estate groups, they're approaching listing agents and they're asking, what are your sellers offering any kind of commission on this or concession or however you want to phrase it, but directly they're asking about buyer agent fees. And when the listing agent answers and says, just submit your offer, these agents are up in arms because they're not getting an answer. They're not getting an answer. And it's driving them crazy. And it's because here's the reason. Rodney, if I was selling your house and I was your agent in these days, and somebody said, and we went live, and an agent called up, and we would, let's say that we offered concessions, but we're not given a number because that, in my opinion, is stupid. It's your money that I'm trying to protect. Your money is more important than my commission, period. But I would advise you, this would be my advice to you. Let's not give them a firm number. Let's not do that. Because if they knew a number, then they're just going to plug that in and that's what we'll give them. But if we don't say that, who knows, they may just ask for 2% because they're shy. That means that you own, I think your house is what, $2.5 million. So you would have saved like $16,000, right? On a $2.5 million house. I would advise to not publish that number, or meaning to share that with people. Let the agent guess. Now, on the other side, I hate that. I'm creating rules that I don't like, But as an agent, it's more important for you. Is that just a mess? Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. I mean, I'm thinking about it like it's the commission is part of the whole deal, like for a seller. So, I mean, make the offer, and why, if you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to pay you, you never know. They may pay them 3.5% if they brought them an overpriced offer or something.
You never know.
I mean, you just don't. So it all depends on the offers. The way I look at it is what somebody's going to take.
But do you remember, and you and I had this deal, and I won't use names, doesn't matter, but do you remember when appraisal gaps was a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you remember that house? We did a deal, and it was $70,000 over the asking price.
I don't remember specifically, but
because it was in the heat of the moment, and the guy said, and we probably looked at 40 houses. He says, "This is what I want to offer." I mean, it was like that was not a question, Yeah. Should we offer this? No. This is what we write that in. You got it. We'll probably get it, And people will because now. So the next. I mean, I was like, that was a lot. That was a lot. And I don't think I broke any rules. I didn't. But when we talk about this commission squabble or whatever you want to call it, what happens when Rod and I put his house on the market and we get multiple offers, and the one important factor that comes across, if we're trying to net the best, we want a few things to happen. We want a good buyer, a non-demanding buyer with solid financing with a good net. And what if they bring us an offer where the buyer is covering the difference for the commission versus everybody else asking for 3%? The reason I bring up the the appraisal gap is just transfer that big pile of money that people were spending into the buyer's agent commission to help you win on a multiple offer. I mean,
Yeah,
man,
I mean, it's like how can you make your offer look the best?
by
And
not paying a buyer agent commission would be a really good way.
yeah, it's a big way. Yes.
And in the old days, you could do it, but it took amendments. And I mean, you had to it wasn't an act of Congress. I imagine it was actually pretty easy, but to think it through, how do you eliminate that? Because I've done it a couple of times where buyer agent forfeits X amount of dollars, to make that work. But if you could submit that right in the offer, gee, man. Anyway, it's amazing it's really just changed. Negotiation is everything now. And since we went through, I've gone through some recently, I've got my head around this thing and I am like ready, now I'm ready. There was I gotta mention this. Oh my gosh, look at the time. I would make sure you get an agent that knows how to navigate that. It's not always. I can't say that. Well, make sure you have somebody that knows how to navigate that because that's tricky. The thing about getting all sweaty. Help me get back on track, Rodney. So yesterday, one of the things that NARD, National Association of Realtors, one of the things they do, I am a realtor, and because of that, there's additional requirements. There's real estate agents, and then there's a realtor, and I don't know why I do it this way. It's just the realtors have extra training. They just do. We're held to a higher standard because we've promised that. We've committed that. And I, for one, for me, being a realtor, it's a privilege, not a right. Now, what proves that is I have a license that can be yanked. That's what proves that's a privilege. It's a lot like a driver's license, but it's still a privilege, not a right. And I find it's a privilege to help people make one of the largest, for most of us, the largest purchase in their life that can make their life wonderful. Well, we're in a class, and it was an ethics class. Isn't that interesting? In the middle of all of this, we're taking an ethics class, and which basically is the golden rule. Just do that with everybody, and you'll be all right, But there were individuals, and I'm not knocking the industry. I'm just saying the problem with changing a rule, just the two rules that I've described earlier, and all of that means, I can't begin to describe what the implications of those rule changes mean. There was a person in that meeting that said, and I quote, "Wait a minute, you're saying they can't put commissions in the MLS anymore?" And I mean, the whole room was like, "Oh, God. Oh, Jesus." And that's what I was telling you months ago when these rule changes came out. There's 1.5 million across the country. And there's going to be different levels of understanding on this. And that's where all those questions come from. You know how many agents, I don't know why I got off on this tear. It's the coffee, I'm telling you. You know how many agents there are in Middle Tennessee?
4,500.
16,000.
16,000. There you have it. That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that. But that's what our teacher said yesterday. And he's a broker, so
yeah,
I suspect he's probably right. 16,000. So as a consumer, and this is what I'm saying, when you're going through your interview process, make sure whoever you're talking to understands what these rule changes are, what they mean, and what I'm getting at here is it depends on where you live and the market there. Do you have to participate in buyer agent commissions? No, you do not. Is it normal? That's what we're used to. But does that have to happen anymore? They're talking about in this. I recently had a seller decide to do, I'm going to use no numbers. I'm going to just use low and high. This person recently had a seller decide to offer a very low amount that he let them know offering less commission would most likely mean the buyer has to make up the difference, and it would only matter if you don't have demand for your home. That small amount home listed at $350, and he got 12 offers. It was a great little home right near Delaware, University of Delaware. Don't know what that means. Half the offers, here we go. Half the offers we got still asked for a larger amount, but the two highest offers accepted that the seller would pay that lower amount. It's all it depends on demand. If the buyers are fighting for it, as a seller, you don't have to commit up front. And if you do commit up front, in this guy's opinion, with the data that I have 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, don't declare that yet. Don't declare your commission yet. And I'm saying this out of the fiduciary duty to people that aren't my clients, that talk to somebody that, have I gone too far on this, Ronnie?
No, I mean, no, it's just simple negotiations. I mean, it's not, we don't have to overthink this really, because there's, it should be a proper way to negotiate now that it has to happen on the front end, like you're doing, like you're supposed to do. So, and that's all it is to it. It's real estate commissions are another fee, just like a lender fee, just like any other fee that's going to be on a closing disclosure. You just have to figure out who's going to pay for it, where it's coming from, and get it in there.
But the practical, and I'll get off this, but I mean, this is a really good art. This article that was written has created a number of similar articles. People will take this article and repackage it. That's where this stuff comes from, because Redfin just does a real good, and they're just talking about data. They're not trying to sell anything. It's just about data. One of the other things that they were talking about is, and I'm going to read this, and then we'll get out of here. Buyers and sellers of luxury homes are more likely to negotiate agent fees, which makes sense, because on a $5 million home, every 0.5% is $25,000. I didn't do the math, but I don't know if that's right, and I'm sure it probably is. Think about somebody who's really smart with money selling a $3 million house. Start doing the math, and then them saying, I don't know if I want to pay $90,000. I mean, these are people that are good with money. The guy buying my $3 million house probably has that. What do you say we try that first? And yeah, you were going to say something.
It's just a large sum of money. I mean, it's let's say if you're in a market where that $3 million house sells just as fast as every other house, you're making, that's 6%, $180,000 split two ways. So, is it like 75% of the buyers, like the buyer went and found that house on his own and he called his agent and said, hey, I want to see this one. And so, does the buyer think that that's worth, what I'm saying? It just, the numbers get so big on these houses that's like, come on, man, and of course a buyer, whether it's right or wrong, Andy, a buyer is not going to think that they're going to get $90,000. Now, it doesn't matter if that agent negotiated $400,000 off the sales price. Okay. It's like, I found the house. Did you do that much work or whatever, So it's just a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And I can predict that I'm gonna run by a scenario, and then we'll say goodbye. But I'm gonna run this scenario by. I'm gonna tell you exactly how that's gonna shake out across the country for big numbers like that. Let's say an agent has a buyer for a $3 million house. I think it's probably not illegal that if it were 3%, it'd be $90,000. That's what it would be if that was what was agreed to. And the buyer and the seller was not willing to pay anything because they're a rebel. And the buyer, they're not friends with the agent, but they're working together. And the buyer looks at the agent and goes, "Would you take 50 to do this deal?" What's the agent going to go? "Nope, it's 90 or nothing." What are you, stupid? I don't think, no, I don't think that's going to happen. And you go on Facebook and it's the story you'd tell and you would be ridiculed out of the business. But that, I see the potential for that is that, I don't know, is that risky to talk about?
No, I think we're going to see every situation, I mean, it's, like Angie, her last comment is it all ties together in my opinion. Like she's talking about there, don't beat me down on price, and then you're going to beat me up over every repair, every nick in the wall or something.
Yep.
And then you want me to pay 3% buyer commission too. It's like you said earlier, it's all about what the seller's got a number they want to net. And all of these factors are in. It's the buyer commissions are no different than repairs. It's like,
yep.
It's just something that has to be negotiated and figured out.
And I bet the sweet spot is going to be, this is going to create a situation where full list price is going to be more common than it used to be.
I see that too. Yeah, I see that too. If you want commissions paid and maybe some closing costs or something. Yeah.
Interesting. Golly. We didn't even take a nip out of this stuff that I had bottled up for today anyway. Probably should close it down. That was really good, Rodney. Thank you for that. Any final thoughts?
No. It's a great topic. Just glad to kind of chew on it for a minute. I mean, it's just real world stuff that's, that we're dealing with. It's just something that has to be negotiated. It's no big deal, really. It's, as you see, the market's doing exactly kind of what it's supposed to be. It's the higher price or the luxury homes, whatever. There's always more negotiations and stuff on those than a a 300,000 or a starter home.
Yeah.
So it's kind of normal in a way.
And I think what's going to happen is that all of the agents, as they start doing transactions, they'll become comfortable with what is actually happening versus what's in their head. Because as soon as I started doing transactions versus what I thought would be happening, it started to make sense to me. I just needed to find my own path through that. Anyway, don't want to get started on that. Thank you for that whole discussion, Rodney, and let me go off. Angie, you are such a nice person. I can't wait to see you out here in Tennessee. And if somebody gives you a rough time about prices, just give us a call. We'll handle that for you.
That's right.
We'll talk to them. If you've been watching this show as a replay, we really appreciate it. Give us a call if you'd like. We'd love to chat with you. My name's Andy. I'm with Rodney. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye, Rodney.
See you.